I'm Shannon Cairns. I'm a podiatrist, business owner, and mom to 3. Juggling the cost of childcare with student debt was overwhelming our family, so we created a strategy to cut childcare expenses and save for our family's future. As a child, I really watched my parents struggle with money, and I think this is one thing that led me to want to become a doctor. I saw kids whose parents were doctors, and I was like, well, they seem like they have it all. If I become a doctor, my life will be easy. And of course, I've found out now that that's not true. I was in school for 11 years total. I never even blinked at the thought of taking out $250,000 of student loans. That's what everybody does. With interest, they eventually grew to almost $400,000. I just assumed I'm going to have money and it'll be so easy to pay my student loans back. At the beginning of 2012, my husband and I got married and we had our first baby about a year later while I was in residency. We never even took the time to actually add up all of our debt. That was, I think, our biggest mistake. Instead of taking associate jobs, we decided to start our own practice, which meant more debt. So, we were closing in on almost $1 million of debt. It wasn't until we had our third baby that everything really started to feel scary. We weren't necessarily making enough money to justify putting the kids in daycare. But I thought it would be ridiculous for me to just stay home with my kids and sit on $400,000 of student loan debt. And we put all 3 in daycare. It was like around $2,700 a month. Eventually, it got to where we couldn't even pay ourselves. All of our money is going to debt and daycare. I was like, we need to do something that will get us on the same page about money. So in January of 2019, we made our first budget. It took about 7 months before we made that first debt payment because our expenses were so high. We couldn't live on less than like $10,000 a month. Childcare was the most expensive thing. And that's when we started looking at some different creative options. We put them in 2 different Mother's Day Out programs. And that ended up being like around $1,000 a month for all 3. And then we started trading days. My husband would stay home with the kids on Tuesday and Thursday, and then vice versa. We were able to put that extra $2,000 towards paying off debt faster, and it really does make a huge dent. Once we were able to reduce our childcare expenses, we started looking around for what else we could cut. We moved out of our 3,000 square foot house into a 1,000 square foot house. We sold the car that we owned and we used the $13,000 to buy 2 cars with cash. And so we actually ended up cutting over $8,000 of expenses. Since starting our debt-free journey in 2019, we started with $625,000 of debt, and we've since paid off $479,000 of debt. We are able to live on less than $50,000 a year. And I recently left practicing full-time to manage my blog, Making Frugal Fun, so that I could be there for my kids more. So we're hoping to be debt-free before summer of 2022. And then our plan would be to buy our first home in the summer. I think if you're really struggling to find a balance with childcare, there's a lot of things that you can do from home, like blogging or creating like an online course to save a little bit on childcare and still be doing what you love. My biggest piece of advice to families is just to get started. I think a lot of people are afraid that they're going to fail, but a lot of the learning and success come through the failures. Eventually, you'll come out on the other side and you'll be like, I'm so glad I started when I did.